Most people don't intentionally sabotage their own lives, but the path to destruction is often paved with tiny, almost imperceptible steps. There's a harsh, unspoken truth about married women that many men overlook. It's a truth that makes them vulnerable, not because they're weak or lacking morals, but because human nature is inherently tempted. No one wakes up one day and decides to betray everything they built. It happens in the smallest moments, the innocent conversations, the lingering glances, the racing heart when she receives a text from someone who isn't her husband. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon for decades, calling it the slow erosion of boundaries. One step at a time, one thought at a time, until one day she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the person staring back. So, why are some married women so susceptible to external attention? How do they justify it to themselves? Let's dive in. Before we continue, welcome back to Eden Tips, where we share helpful relationship tips and advices to help you not just improve your relationship but also your life. If you are new here or watching our video for the first time, don't forget to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of our new posts. Now, here's why some married women seek external attention. A great marriage is a partnership, says Helen Mirren. It can't be a great marriage without being a partnership. Marriage, at its best, is a bond that withstands time, trials, and temptations. However, not all marriages remain strong. Some women, despite taking vows, find themselves drawn to attention outside their marriage. It's often not about physical attraction alone, it's psychological. The biggest misconception is that these women are seeking an escape. In reality, many are searching for something they've lost. As humans, we're wired for connection. Women, in particular, have a deep-seated need for emotional intimacy, not just physical presence. In the beginning stages of marriage, this intimacy is strong: the late-night conversations, the stolen glances, the feeling of being seen. It's intoxicating. But over time, routine takes over. Life becomes predictable. The deep conversations turn into logistical discussions about grocery lists and household chores. Passion gives way to duty. And worst of all, she starts to feel invisible. This is where the danger begins. Dr. John Gottman, a renowned relationship psychologist, explains that the silent killer of relationships isn't conflict, it's indifference. When a woman no longer feels noticed by her husband, her subconscious mind starts seeking validation elsewhere, often without her even realizing it. People will do anything to avoid being lonely, even if it means losing themselves in the process. Mitch Albom's words echo this sentiment. A simple compliment from a stranger, a conversation with a man who actually listens, a moment where she feels interesting again, and suddenly, that tiny interaction feels like oxygen after years of suffocation. Marriage comes with responsibilities, predictability, and stability. But the downside of stability is that it often kills excitement. In psychology, this is called the Coolidge effect, the idea that novelty is what triggers desire. People, both men and women, are drawn to the excitement of the unknown. If a woman has been married for years, and every day looks the same, and every interaction feels rehearsed, then the slightest spark of something new can feel electrifying. Not because she doesn't love her husband, not because she's a bad person, but because she misses the thrill of feeling wanted. We are most alive when we are in love, F. Scott Fitzgerald once said. But love is not just about being together, it's about being chosen, again and again. When a woman feels pursued, seen, and desired, she feels alive. But when she's ignored, neglected, or taken for granted, she starts to wither away. The consequences can be devastating, not just for her, but for the entire family. When she feels like she has power over a man's desire, it reminds her of a version of herself she thought was long gone, the younger, confident version, the one who felt effortlessly attractive. Even if she never intends to cross any lines, she might start walking closer to them, because in those fleeting moments, she feels alive again. Another overlooked reason why some married women become susceptible to external validation is social identity loss. Many women, after marriage, start to feel like they're no longer an individual, they're someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's caretaker. Their identity shifts from who I am to who I am to others. Before marriage, she was a mystery, an individual with dreams, interests, and passions. After marriage, she becomes defined by her roles: wife, mom, supporter, the one who keeps things together. While these roles are beautiful, they can also become restrictive. If a woman no longer feels like her own person, she might start seeking out interactions that make her feel separate from her role. Sometimes, that interaction comes in the form of another man. Now here's what I call the justification game. The mind will always find a way to justify what the heart has already decided. No one wakes up one day and says, "I think I'll betray my marriage today." That's not how it works. When a married woman begins engaging in emotionally or physically risky behavior, it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, slippery process, one that is often justified in the deepest corners of her mind long before it manifests in real life. Because the truth is, guilt is an unbearable weight. And if someone can convince themselves that what they're doing isn't really wrong, they no longer have to carry that weight. So, how does this happen? How do married women rationalize crossing the line? At first, everything feels innocent. It's just a little attention, what's the harm? I'm just talking to him, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like I'm cheating. We've all been there, enjoying the moment, justifying our actions, and convincing ourselves that everything is fine. But the truth is, our brains are masters of self-deception. When something feels good but goes against our moral values, our brains create excuses to bridge the gap. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the tension that arises when our actions contradict our beliefs. A woman who was once completely loyal starts playing mental games. She downplays her actions. "It's just flirting. It's not like I'd actually do anything." She shifts the blame: "If my husband paid more attention to me, I wouldn't need this." She compartmentalizes: "This has nothing to do with my marriage, this is just something separate for me." But here's the kicker: the more she justifies, the further she'll go. For many married women, the first betrayal isn't physical, it's emotional. This is what makes it so dangerous. With physical cheating, the lines are clear, there's no gray area in kissing, sleeping with, or intimately touching another man. But an emotional affair? That's where things get blurry. Late-night texts, conversations that go deeper than they should, sharing personal struggles with another man instead of her husband. At first, she tells herself it's just emotional, there's no harm in talking. But emotional intimacy is powerful. When a woman shares her mind, her thoughts, and her emotions with a man, she's already started detaching from her husband. Cheating isn't always a physical act. The moment you start keeping secrets from your partner, you've already crossed the line. And this is where the real danger lies, because when emotions are deeply involved, physical boundaries start to break down. The "I deserve this" justification is the last and most dangerous rationalization. At this stage, a woman no longer sees her actions as questionable. In her mind, they are justified. "I've sacrificed so much for this marriage, I deserve to feel good again. He's ignored me for years, if he doesn't care, why should I? I've been faithful for so long, and it's gotten me nowhere, what's the point?" This is the point of no return. At this stage, the emotional connection she's formed with another man feels more real than the marriage itself. Her mind has fully convinced her that stepping over the line isn't betrayal, it's justice. And once a person believes something is justified, nothing can stop them. The reason married women sometimes become the easiest prey isn't because they are weak-willed or immoral, it's because the human brain is wired to rationalize what feels good. It starts with small excuses, tiny justifications. But if left unchecked, those justifications turn into actions, and once the line is crossed, there's no going back. But here's the breaking point. The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. Samuel Johnson. Every story has a point of no return, a moment where the game is no longer a game, but reality. The scary part is that most women don't even realize when it happens until it's too late. In psychology, there's a concept called threshold theory. It explains why people who swore they'd never do something eventually end up doing it. The hardest part isn't doing it, it's doing it the first time. The first time she sends a message she knows she shouldn't send. The first time she meets up with him just as friends. The first time she feels his hand linger a little too long, and she doesn't pull away. That's the moment where everything shifts. Because after that first time, the second time is easier. As Aristotle said, what we do repeatedly, we become. And before she knows it, what once felt forbidden starts to feel normal. Here's the biggest lie people tell themselves when they're on a dangerous path: I can stop whenever I want. But can they? Not really. Because once something triggers an emotional response, it becomes addictive. Neuroscientists have found that romantic and sexual attraction activate the same brain pathways as drug addiction. The dopamine rush of a new connection feels intoxicating, like a hit of something she didn't even realize she was craving. So, even if she tells herself, this is the last time, she'll find a reason to go back. Because at this point, it's no longer about the other man, it's about the feeling she gets when she's with him. At first, lying feels unnatural. The first time she deceives her husband, it's a struggle. But the more she does it, the easier it becomes. The guilt starts to fade, replaced by a sense of excitement and thrill. And that's when she realizes she's crossed a line that's almost impossible to uncross. The first time she hides a message, the first time she makes an excuse, the first time she feels her heart racing when her husband asks, "Who are you texting?" It feels wrong, but the human mind is terrifyingly adaptable. And after a while, the guilt turns into strategy. She gets better at covering her tracks, compartmentalizing so well that she doesn't even feel guilty anymore. She starts believing her own lies, and this is where things spiral out of control. Because the longer the secret exists, the harder it is to escape. She might tell herself, I'll end it next week, next month, soon. But weeks turn into months, and by the time she realizes she's trapped in her own web, it's too late. Here's the final shift that happens in a woman's mind when she's gone too far: she stops seeing her marriage as her primary relationship. Her husband becomes the other man. The real connection, the real passion, the real intimacy, it's all happening elsewhere. At this stage, even if she hasn't physically crossed the line, her heart already belongs to someone else. And when that happens, there are only two ways the story ends: she gets caught, or she eventually walks away from her marriage, unable to live a double life anymore. So, why are some married women the easiest prey? Because they're not looking to cheat, they're looking to feel something they lost. And once they find it, walking away feels impossible, not because they don't love their husbands, but because they've invested too much emotional capital in someone else. The truth is, the signs were always there, silent signals before they turned into something irreversible. And with that knowledge, you'll never be blind to the game again. Thank you so much for watching and listening up till this point. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to encourage us by liking the post, smashing the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, turning on the bell notification and sharing your thoughts in the comments section. See you on the next one.